Be me, Olivia, 28. Just broke up with Ethan last month after 2 years together. Told all my friends he was emotionally unavailable and couldn't handle a strong woman. Honestly feel pretty vindicated about the whole thing. He kept trying to bring up communication issues, which was obviously just code for wanting me to be more submissive. Whatever. His loss. Fast forward to today. Realize I left my favorite earrings at his apartment. Know he's at work until 6 p.m. Figure I can swing by and grab them. Still have the spare key he gave me months ago. Technically, I should probably return it, but I need my earrings first. Let myself into his place. Feels weird being here without him. Head straight to the bedroom to look for my jewelry. Checking his nightstand drawer for the little dish where I used to put them. Instead find this leather-bound notebook. Curiosity gets the better of me. What kind of guy keeps a diary anyway? Open it up, expecting maybe work notes or something boring. Immediately see it's actually a personal journal. Entries dating back to when we first started dating. Should probably put it back, but what if he wrote about me? Just a quick peek to see what he really thought about our relationship. Maybe some validation that he was intimidated by my independence. Flip to a random entry from about 6 months into our relationship. March 15th. Olivia got upset with me again today for not planning something thoughtful for our 6-month anniversary. When I suggested we split the cost of a nice dinner since we've been talking about how important financial equality is to her, she completely lost it. Said I was being cheap and that a real man would want to treat his girlfriend. I tried to point out the contradiction, but she said I was weaponizing feminism against her. I ended up paying for the whole weekend trip to the coast just to stop the fighting. Cost me nearly $800 I didn't really have. I feel like I can't win. She wants equality when it benefits her, but traditional gender roles when it doesn't. The worst part was when she told Sarah and Jessica about it at dinner, making it sound like I was some deadbeat who never wanted to spend money on her. I just sat there while they all talked about how men today don't know how to be men. I felt about 2 inches tall. Stomach drops a little reading this. I remember that fight. He's totally mischaracterizing what happened. I wasn't asking for traditional gender roles, just basic thoughtfulness. Though, I do remember complaining to the girls about it. Flip ahead a few pages, telling myself I'll just read one more entry. May 3rd. Had dinner with Olivia's parents tonight. Every time her dad tried to talk to me about sports or ask about my job, Olivia would interrupt to lecture about toxic masculinity and how men bond through sports because they can't express emotions properly. When I mentioned I actually enjoy basketball because it reminds me of playing with my dad before he died, she said I was romanticizing patriarch bonding rituals. Her mom tried to change the subject, but Olivia kept going. I excused myself to the bathroom and just sat there for 10 minutes, trying not to cry. My dad died when I was 12. Basketball is one of the few good memories I have of him. When I came back, Olivia was explaining to her parents how she's helping me unpack my masculine conditioning. I drove home in silence while she talked about how proud she was of me for listening and learning. I wasn't learning. I was dying inside. Hands actually shaking now. I remember that dinner. Thought I was helping him grow as a person. His dad. He never talks about his dad. Had no idea he died when Ethan was so young. The basketball thing. Oh God. Keep reading. Can't seem to stop myself. July 22nd. Olivia invited her book club over tonight. I tried to stay out of the way, but they were discussing some article about emotional labor. Olivia started using me as an example of how she has to manage my feelings and teach me empathy. She told them about how I got upset last week when she canceled our plans last minute to go to that rally, and how she had to educate me about how women's rights are more important than dinner reservations. The whole group was nodding along while she described me like I was some kind of project. Lisa asked if I was worth the effort, and Olivia said, "That's the burden we bear as evolved women." I was sitting right there in the kitchen, able to hear everything. When they left, I told her it hurt to be talked about like that. She said I was being too sensitive and that if I felt ashamed, maybe I should examine why instead of tone policing her. I slept on the couch because I couldn't stand the thought of lying next to someone who saw me as a burden. Oh fuck. I remember that book club meeting. Thought I was sharing insights about relationships. Didn't think about how it would sound to him. But he was being unreasonable about the rally thing, wasn't he? Flipping through more pages, finding entry after entry. September 8th. Olivia's been on me all week about not posting anything for Women's Equality Day on social media. Says my silence is violence and that I need to use my male privilege to amplify women's voices. When I said I prefer to support causes privately through donations rather than performative posting, she accused me of being ashamed to be associated with feminism. Made me sit down and craft a post while she watched, editing it multiple times because it wasn't authentic enough. then got mad when people commented that it sounded forced. Told me I obviously don't really care about women's rights and that she's starting to question if I'm the kind of man she thought I was. I've donated to 3 women's organizations this year and volunteer at the domestic violence shelter every other weekend, but apparently none of that matters because I don't announce it online. I feel like nothing I do is ever enough, and when I try to express that, I'm told I'm making it about myself. The shelter volunteering. I never knew about that. Why didn't he tell me? I mean, I did need him to be more vocal about supporting women. How was I supposed to know he was doing all that other stuff if he never mentioned it? October 31st. Went to Kevin's Halloween party with Olivia tonight. Worst night I've had in months. She spent the entire party critiquing everyone's costumes for being problematic. When she started loudly explaining to a group of people why Kevin's girlfriend's Pocahontas costume was cultural appropriation, I quietly suggested maybe we could discuss it privately with them later instead of calling them out in front of everyone. Olivia turned on me in front of the whole group and said I was protecting white fragility and asked if I was one of those men who only supports women when it's convenient. I tried to say that wasn't what I meant, but she cut me off and said my defensiveness was showing. I ended up apologizing profusely just to end the scene she was making. Spent the rest of the party standing in the corner while she held court about intersectional feminism. On the drive home, she said she was disappointed in me and that she needed to see more growth if this relationship was going to work. I wanted to point out that she'd humiliated me in front of all our friends, but I knew it would just lead to another lecture about how I can't handle being called out. I'm starting to feel like I'm walking on eggshells constantly, cringing so hard reading this. I do remember that party. Felt like he was trying to silence me. But reading it from his perspective, maybe I could have handled that differently, though someone needed to say something about that costume. Hands trembling as I turn more pages. November 18th. Olivia broke up with me today, then got back together with me 6 hours later. This morning she said she couldn't be with someone who doesn't challenge the patriarchy enough because I wouldn't argue with my boss about the company's paternity leave policy during my performance review. I tried to explain that I'm already on thin ice at work and can't afford to rock the boat right now, especially since I'm trying to get promoted so I can better support us financially. She said I was prioritizing capitalism over justice and that she couldn't respect a man who chooses complicity. I was devastated, been crying on and off all day, called in sick to work because I couldn't function. Then tonight she showed up at my door saying she'd talked to her therapist and realized she was being too hard on me, but that I needed to understand her perspective better. We're back together, but I feel like emotional roadkill. This cycle of breaking up and getting back together is killing me. I never know when I'm going to say or do something that makes her question our entire relationship. I used to be a confident person, but now I second-guess everything I say or do. I feel like I'm constantly failing some test I didn't know I was taking. Stomach feels like it's dropping through the floor. I remember that fight. Thought I was holding him accountable. Didn't realize how much it was affecting him. The part about him crying. I never saw him cry. Not once in 2 years. December 3rd. Olivia's been criticizing everything I do lately. Yesterday, she said, the way I load the dishwasher is a reflection of how I view women's labor. Apparently I'm being careless and expecting her to fix my mistakes. When I suggested we could alternate who does dishes instead, she said I was trying to avoid accountability and that the problem wasn't the division of labor but my mindset. Today she got upset because I bought the wrong brand of tampons for her emergency stash. Said I clearly don't pay attention to her needs, and that mental load falls on women because men refuse to care about details. I've been keeping a note in my phone of her preferred brands for everything: tampons, birth control, face wash, coffee, but I grabbed the wrong box in a hurry, and apparently that negates all the times I got it right. I apologized and went back to the store immediately, but she said sorry wasn't enough and that I needed to sit with why I'd made that mistake. I'm sitting with it now, and honestly, I think I made that mistake because I'm so anxious about messing up that my hands were shaking in the feminine products aisle. I used to joke with friends about not understanding women, but this isn't funny anymore. I feel like I'm failing at being a decent human being, and I don't know how to fix it. Oh my God. He kept notes in his phone. I never knew that. I was so angry about the tampon thing. Seemed like he just didn't care enough to remember, but he was actually trying harder than I realized. January 14th. Olivia says I have toxic positivity because I tried to cheer her up when she was having a bad day at work. Apparently suggesting we could order her favorite Thai food and watch a movie was dismissing her emotional experience and rushing her through her feelings. When I asked what she needed from me instead, she said I should know without asking, and that emotional intelligence means reading the situation. But last week when she was upset and I just listened without offering solutions, she said I was being passive and not caring enough to help problem solve. I can't figure out what she wants from me. I've started keeping a journal of how she responds to different things I do, trying to find patterns, but there don't seem to be any. The same action gets completely different reactions depending on her mood. I'm exhausted from trying to decode what kind of support she needs at any given moment, while also being told that asking directly shows I'm not emotionally evolved enough. I never thought I'd say this, but I miss the simplicity of my previous relationships where I could just be myself. The pattern tracking thing, that's actually heartbreaking. I did get frustrated with him for asking what I needed. Thought he should just know. But reading this, I can see how confusing I was being. My responses probably didn't make sense from his perspective. February 9th. Had the worst fight yet with Olivia tonight. I've been struggling with anxiety lately, work stress, money concerns, and honestly the constant pressure of our relationship dynamics. I finally worked up the courage to suggest couples counseling because I feel like we're stuck in these negative patterns. Olivia completely exploded, said I was pathologizing her and trying to make her the problem. When I tried to explain that I thought we both had things to work on, she accused me of both siding our issues and said that as a man, I needed to focus on my own growth instead of deflecting. She said therapy was just another way for men to avoid taking responsibility and that if I really loved her, I'd do the work myself. I tried to say that I've been reading books and articles she's recommended, but she said reading wasn't enough and I needed to show real change. When I asked for specific examples of what change would look like, she said the fact that I needed it spelled out proved I wasn't ready for the work. I ended up apologizing for even suggesting therapy, but inside I'm screaming. I know I'm not perfect, but I feel like I've been bending over backwards to be better and it's never enough. I'm starting to lose myself in this relationship. Reading this is making me physically nauseous. I remember shutting down the therapy suggestion. Thought he was trying to make our problems seem mutual when clearly he was the one who needed to change. But maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe we both had issues. March 2nd. Olivia told me today that she's been educating her coworkers about our relationship as an example of how women can help men evolve. Apparently, I'm her success story of how the right woman can help a man overcome his conditioning. She described to them how I used to be typical, but now I'm more aware of my privilege and impact. The way she talks about me like I'm some kind of before and after transformation makes me feel sick. I wasn't some monster when we met. I was just a regular guy, trying to be decent to people. Now I feel like every conversation is a test, and every day I might discover some new way I've been unconsciously perpetuating harm. I used to have opinions and preferences and a sense of humor. Now I run everything through this filter of, is this problematic? And I've lost track of who I actually am underneath all the self-monitoring. I love Olivia, but I'm not sure I love who I've become with her. I feel like I disappeared somewhere along the way. Tears are actually falling on the pages now. I was proud of how much he'd grown. Thought I was helping him become a better person. Never considered that I might be erasing who he was. The part about losing his sense of humor. He did used to laugh more. Flipping toward more recent entries with shaking hands. March 20th. I think I need to end things with Olivia, but I don't know how. Every time I try to bring up problems in our relationship, I get told I'm being defensive or making things about myself. I feel trapped in this dynamic where I'm always the student and she's always the teacher, always the one with something to correct about how I think or feel or behave. I miss having a partner who saw me as an equal instead of a project. I miss being able to disagree about something without it becoming a seminar on my unconscious biases. I miss feeling like my feelings mattered too. Yesterday I tried to tell her that her constant corrections were affecting my self-esteem, and she said that discomfort with being called out was a sign I needed to lean into the learning. But I'm not learning anymore. I'm just shrinking. I'm becoming smaller and smaller, trying to take up less space so there's less of me to criticize. I don't think she sees me as a person anymore, just as a representation of everything wrong with men that she gets to fix. I know if I break up with her, she'll tell everyone it's because I couldn't handle being with a strong woman. And maybe that's true. Maybe I can't handle being with someone who makes me feel this worthless. Sobbing now. Can barely see the page through tears. This is how he really felt? All this time I thought I was helping him grow. Thought our discussions were making him more aware. Never realized I was making him feel worthless. Last entry I can bear to read. Dated just a week before our breakup. April 8th. Olivia accused me of stonewalling her today because I didn't want to have another 3-hour conversation about my internalized misogyny after I said I was tired. I worked a 12-hour shift yesterday and just wanted to come home and decompress quietly. But apparently my need for space is a classic male avoidance tactic and shows I'm not committed to growth. She said, if I really loved her, I'd prioritize our relationship over my comfort. I ended up sitting through another lecture about emotional availability while fighting to keep my eyes open. I think something broke in me tonight. I realized that I haven't felt genuinely happy in months. I can't remember the last time I felt relaxed or at peace. Every interaction with Olivia feels like I'm being cross-examined for crimes I didn't know I'd committed. I love her, but I don't think she loves me. Not the real me, anyway. She loves the idea of fixing me. She loves having someone to educate and improve. But the person I actually am seems to disappoint her constantly. I don't want to be anyone's improvement project anymore. I want to be someone's partner. I want to be with someone who likes me, not someone who's constantly trying to make me into someone else. I think I know what I have to do. Close the journal and just sit there on his bed, crying harder than I have in years. This is what I did to him. This is who I was in our relationship. I was so focused on making him better that I never stopped to consider whether I was making him happy, or whether he needed to be fixed in the first place. Thinking back through our entire relationship with this new perspective. All those times I thought I was standing up for myself. All those moments I felt proud of educating him. All those conversations where I thought I was helping him grow. He experienced all of it as criticism and rejection. The worst part is how reasonable I thought I was being. How justified I felt in everything I said and did. I genuinely believed I was the wronged party when we broke up. Told everyone he couldn't handle my independence. Painted him as just another guy who was threatened by a strong woman. But I wasn't strong. I was cruel, and I was too self-righteous to see it. Remembering specific moments now with horrible clarity. The way his face would shut down when I started explaining his privilege to him. How he stopped sharing opinions about movies or books. The way he'd apologize immediately whenever I got upset, like he was afraid of me. How he stopped talking about his day at work after I kept pointing out problematic things his coworkers said. He didn't become more enlightened. He just became more afraid. Sitting in his empty apartment, holding his journal, realizing that everything he wrote about me was true. I did use feminist language to shut down his concerns. I did have double standards about equality. I did treat him like a project instead of a person. I did make him feel like he could never be good enough. The most horrifying part is that I still want to argue with what he wrote. Still want to defend my actions and explain my perspective, which just proves his point about how I could never let him have his own experience. Always had to correct him. Always had to be right. I thought I was helping him become a better man. But I was really just making him hate himself, and maybe hate women too, after what I put him through. I might have done more damage to feminism in one relationship than any misogynist could do in years. Putting the journal back exactly where I found it. Taking one last look around the apartment. Seeing it now as the home of someone I systematically destroyed. Someone who tried to love me while I picked apart everything about him. Leaving without my earrings. They don't matter anymore. Nothing feels like it matters anymore except the sick realization of who I really am. Not the enlightened feminist I thought I was. Just another person who used ideology to justify being cruel. Just another person who confused being right with being good. Driving home in complete silence. No music, no podcasts, nothing. Just the sound of my own breathing and the weight of what I've learned. I was the problem the whole time. I was the toxic one. I was the one who couldn't handle being in a relationship with a good person. Going to have to live with this now. Going to have to face the fact that I drove away someone who genuinely loved me. Because I couldn't love him back without trying to change everything about him first. And worst of all, I'm going to have to admit that maybe, just maybe, I'm not the person I thought I was.